Hey, it's Don, the Auction Professor. Today we're going to talk about another BOLO today. And as I've said, the more BOLOs, the more items you are looking for, the better you will do no matter what. No one can tell me otherwise. I know from personal experience. Again, we've done this 6 straight years of selling nothing but on eBay, now on Amazon, obviously, and other sites. But again, we are all online sellers. That's all we do and have done straight full-time for 6 years. So again, the more items you know, the better you are going to be, the more money you will make. So again, we're going to talk today about chalkware items. I know many people aren't familiar with the term chalkware, don't know what it is, haven't a clue. Chances are you've seen many items that were chalkware and just hadn't an idea on, what they were, what to even call it. So we're going to go to the screen and we're just going to talk about chalkware BOLO items. Okay, so chalkware, for those of you who don't know, it's basically just plaster. Plaster of Paris or plaster of some sort. Statuary is the biggest thing you're going to find. Esco is one of the #1 brands of these to buy. I see them all the time for all different kinds of characters. Here's a perfect example. Now this one's got a box, so this one's a little better than most. This one's $1,400. And it's a specific one, Prelude Creations. So it's an Esco, though, Esco style anyway. But there's other brands, other makes on these. We're going to show you a few of them here. They're heavy items, but they still sell horrendously well. Here's another one, 1972. These are newer. These go up into the 80s even, some of these. So, and again, different brands, different styles. Again, this one person just probably copied off the other person's listing, the same Prelude Creations and all. But again, they all copied off of Esco, and we're going to show you an Esco here in just a few minutes. Now, polychrome is just the meaning of the coloring on here, the painting. This is a specific one. This is a Chinese princess, it's called. 20s. Now, this actually, chalkware started back from like carnivals and festivals and stuff. And I'm going to show you a couple carnival ones in just a few minutes here as well, too. But these statuary in general sell across the board. I buy them all the time. There's different brands, there's different styles, there's ethnic ones and all kinds of different versions of these. But this is $950. Now, here's an Esco. This is, well, actually, this says Esco like Tuscany Studios. It's probably identical to Esco, I would say. People ripped them off and copied and made their own ones from an original Esco that they had. So, again, these sell very well. The horror ones and comic book related ones are some of the best ones, as well as actors and actresses. Those are the majority of what you'll see. This one's $800. Now, here's another 20s or 30s, Esther Hunt. Now, again, they did a lot of famous people. This is the actual artist who did this. This is a designer piece. It would have been like on top of a radio or the mantle or something like that. This one's $630. Now, even if these have chips to them, like a little chip or some paint worn, I still buy them because they still sell. They're very, very easy to repair because it's just plaster. You can recarve them and repaint them. I've seen repairs and all. I wouldn't repair anything unless I said that it was repaired, just FYI. Now, here's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is probably an Esco. It may not be, but they're all similar. It's just Esco in style, I guess you could say. Let's see if we can get a blow up on the bottom here. I can't quite make out the name, but there's a ton of different names on these. There's probably a half a dozen that make these similar style. Apex. That would be the brand on this one here. But again, $611 for this one. Again, this isn't a long category. You just need to be able to see the difference between plaster and, just junk, basically. Resin. None of the resin or anything are really worth much. Now, this would have been an advertisement piece. It could have been used for anything, really, but it looks more like an advertising piece to me. So it probably is from a cigar store or something along that line. That's typically how it is. The hook or the anchoring pieces are actually just embedded into the plaster. Anybody could have made these back then. So that's why I say copies are not, worthless. They still carry a value because, they are usually copied off the original. Now, here's an Esco specific. Let's see if we can find the Esco mark for you. This is Lou Gehrig. This one's $600. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Esco. That's literally what you're looking for. They made them for years, and I mean years. They still may even make them now. There's an Esco factory not too far from where we're at in general, so you can still find these. And there's a whole bunch more down here you can see. There's tons of them. They started back in the 50s and 60s, and they're famous people usually. So anyway, let's move on here. Here's another one, vintage Esco. being sold as a set price lower. Again, these could have sold separately nicely. Sometimes you can find these that are unpainted and people just paint them at their house even. Or people will copy these, as I said. So again, even the copies sell on these. It doesn't really matter. They're just popular pieces. They're heavy. They stand up well. They look neat on display. So again, Esco or Esco-like all sell. This one's $700. If they sold them separately, probably $400 a piece would be my guess. Maybe a little more. Kato, you know, if you're not familiar, Kato is actually Bruce Lee played Kato. So for those of you who don't know your history on some of this, Kato is Bruce Lee. So pay attention to that. Probably if they would have listed Kato Bruce Lee, it would have sold for more on its own. But who knows? Bosons or Bosons. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but Bosons I think is correct probably. Now these are just figurary. You know, I've had tons of these. These show up all the time. They're not very tall. They're only like 6-8 inches depending on the one. Same molded in hanger there and Bosons. They're all the same. A lot of these were made in England, if not all of them. Many different characters, pirates and you know, like nautical sailors and things like that, military, Spanish, you name it, they made head figures cast on them. These are smaller. They still sell very well. Some of these have been discontinued for decades and are worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You can just type in Bosons and you're going to see tons of them, and I mean tons, with a high sell-through rate across the board in that category. But this one's $500. Batman. Now this is something you might have found, you know, in a like a I don't know, a fair festival, like a state fair, something like this, or you know, an arcade back in the day. This one's probably not that old, but these do always sell. As I said, comic book characters, damaged or not, these can sell very well. I've even seen heads broken off and them still selling. This is 18 inches, so it's a little bigger than most of them, but $500 on this one. Another one right here, Esco again. Again, all the horror comic book are the best ones. This one's $600. Horror always sells. Anything Universal Studios horror monsters always sell. The Mummy, the Werewolf, you know, Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster, whatever you want to call it, they're all there. Now here's another one, $425. This one's in the box, so these are not that old, but they do date back old on some of them, so just keep that in mind. Now I see these heads even at Savers, Goodwill, Salvation Army. These show up at thrift stores, believe it or not. These kind, not necessarily the tall Escos, but these usually do show up, and I've gotten, you know, a couple of them on many occasions at Savers. Sometimes there'll be two in a bag, you know, tacked to the wall. But anyway. Now here's advertising too. They come in all kinds of different types. Now this one's got some damage. You can see some of the wording down at the bottom. The average looks like it's damaged. Again, these are repairable. People don't usually repair them, but they are big sellers for the most part. You know, this is advertisement. You can see them for beer. You can see them for soda. You can see them for record displays and all kinds of things. Like RCA, there's the RCA dog Nipper, or whatever the dog's name is. But you can find those as well. This one's $419. Charles Bronson, another one. Again, they made them. They still make them for all I know, but they've made them up until at least the 90s to 2000 era and all the way back to the 50s. So Esco, again, I just can't talk enough about these. Every one I get, I sell. Every single one. I have never had one sit for very long, ever, on any of these. Ever, ever, ever in my life. So anyway, $357. Wizard of Oz. Now, this is a different one. These are something you could buy, too. These are string holders. String would go in the back. It would be held in place by the weight of this thing against the wall. You know, and this is actually made by MGM, so this isn't a vintage original. This could date back to the 30s or 40s even, for all I know. I don't know the dates on some of these. I just know I always buy them. Any of these string holders sell very well, especially if they're figural character related. Even monster ones you'll see, even from, you know, like the Munsters or Get Smart or something like that. You'll see all the TV ones occasionally, too. They are advertisement pieces. This one's $395. And again, lamps. I'm just showing you one lamp here just to give you an idea. But lamps in general, you'll see tons of them. I've got a pair here that we've owned for years. They just are very popular. Lamps are always good. Doesn't matter if it has a shade. Doesn't matter if it works. What they're paying for is the chalkware base. Now this one has some nice background. Now, I can see why they put the background in. That fabric as a curtain, and those curtains like that can sell for hundreds of dollars. So just FYI. But But anyway, that's another brand. That's a 50s. They go way back. As I said, the 20s even before that to some extent. Now, this is a Carnival, and it says that Carnival prize. Back in the day, you'd, throw the ball, knock down the bottles, the milk bottles, and you could win one of these. So, this is a perfect example of that. They're cheaply painted, usually airbrushed really quickly. This is an airbrushed version. It might have some touch-ups by hand with the face-wise, but in many cases they had like a mold or something that just set over it and they could spray it and it would only cover that certain area. This might have some hand work done to it too. Like the eyes, the eye part, that could easily have been done airbrushed really close. I do airbrush, so that's not a big ordeal. It does look like it's airbrushed, but this is the cheaper ones. The cheaply made ones, I should say. This one's still sold for $256, and it's nobody famous. It's just a junk piece, basically. Something that would have been a giveaway back in the day. And there's thousands, tens of thousands of different designs in different sizes. The bigger they are, the more they are worth. So just keep that in mind. Let's see if we can find a size on this one. Does it say 14¼ inches tall? So a foot or taller better is about the average. Now, I've had Cupid dolls that were only like 9-10 inches, and they still sell for $40 or so. So the size-wise, the smaller it is, the less it sells for. But if you get one a foot taller to almost 2 feet, they're horrendously expensive for the most part. Now, I've sold some of these. This is a Sacred Heart. To look for Sacred Hearts are the ones I look for most. Most of the religious statues aren't worth a ton of money, but Sacred Hearts always seem to sell well. And you can see it on his chest, on Jesus' chest, he's had his finger touching the heart. It has like a flame at the top of it with like a band of, I don't really know what you'd call it. Chains, I guess it shows on here. But I think it's actually supposed to be the thorny crown, in my opinion, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that's literally a Sacred Heart. Whenever I see that on something, it's usually worth a few bucks more than the average piece. But again, these are made by many different companies. I don't know if this one's marked. This one is marked, actually. This is Spain. Yeah, this is a newer one, but still, the religious statues, if they're big enough, always sell as well, too. So, anyway, $200 for that one. Now, here's a real crude Carnival one right here. Most people wouldn't even have known it was Superman. Now, some of them look better than others. I've seen this one. I haven't had it, but I have seen it. Some of them are only done on one side, but the better ones are the ones that are done on both sides, obviously. This is more a cheap one. It was made to sit against the wall. This was a really cheap one comparatively. $200, $205 actually. And now one last one here, because you're going to find these right this minute. Even at Savers, I run into these. Now, for the most part, most chalkware Santas and stuff that are this new aren't worth anything. But the Valencourt ones usually sell very well. And I've seen tons of people selling them. I've had some recently, and I've already sold them that quick. So, again, they're not huge statues. You can find bigger versions of these. Let's see if it says the size. 8½ inches tall. So, as I said, it's the name brand on this one. Very specific on this one here. Their designers, I think they maybe are sold in Nordstrom's or something along that line, if I'm not mistaken. And here's one more Santa. They come in all different kinds, all different styles. This one has like added bonus with like a little box Christmas ornaments that he's supposed to be carrying. You want specific brands on some of the newer ones. If it was like an old Santa Claus, for the most part, it wouldn't be worth a fortune, but you still might get $50-$70 for one this small, 8-9 inches. So just keep that in mind. Chalkware of all types sells. We buy busts or heads that sit on the wall. And usually you see them in pairs. Just like the chalkware fishes that have the little bubble set with it. We have one of those in our bathroom right this very minute that we've bought just to display on the wall because the wife loves them. But again, chalkware is very, very, very collectible. Look it up. Just type in chalkware once. Now, they don't all have to say chalkware in the title. This one, I think, is listed in a chalkware section. Yeah, chalkware section and collectibles. So that's the key on some of these. It doesn't always say it. So I've pulled some just out of a chalkware search. Some of these aren't going to have chalkware in the title. People aren't even going to know they are chalkware, but they still sell. Anybody who knows chalkware, collects it, will be looking for these. Now, I had a friend that collected chalkware, and he had about 160 of the Esco ones. So he had thousands of dollars invested in these things. When he sold them at the end, he doubled his money on every single one of them. Got them all rid of them. And some of them he made like, $300, $400, $500 profit on. So anyway, chalkware, that is today's BOLO. Pay attention, look it up, do some comp searches on your own so you know what I'm talking about. It's literally just painted plaster, and that is all it is. Repairable, fixable. They sell broke, they sell damaged. It just depends on the condition and how much of it's there and how much needs to be repaired. Now, I know somebody who fixes them, so sometimes I have them fixed and listed that it was repaired. But again, I always buy the good ones, or the majority of what I see. Not all of them are worth money, so do some searching. As I said, research is key for everything. But that's what we have today. Well, there you go. There's some more items that we look for. Chalkware is a big BOLO. Some of the items can sell for hundreds of dollars. It's not going to be a huge mover all the time, but there are some items that we sell every time we put them up, and very quickly. So the more you know, the more you're going to make. There's just no other way around this. So hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when we post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.